Another weekend and another example of Kalen DeBoer and company doing a fantastic job on the recruiting trail, getting yet another big-time commitment. This time, another offensive lineman stacking the beef in the trenches, and today, we need to talk about why Jackson Lloyd is a big win. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes, N for no. Are you excited that Jackson Lloyd commits to Alabama? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions aren't just big for myself, but any content creator who you enjoy really helps them get picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. First and foremost, as always, who is Jackson Lloyd? Well, Jackson Lloyd is one of the most gifted prospects in the entirety of high school football, but certainly one of the best offensive linemen in the nation. Pretty much, well, no matter where you look, no matter what recruiting site, he is at least a four-star prospect and one of the top offensive tackles in the nation, standing 6'7", 290 pounds. However, if you look at On3, they have him ranked as the number 29 player in the nation, a top 10 offensive tackle, and the number 1 player in the state of California, a state we talk about a lot, having a ton of talent where pretty much every major university in the nation tries to establish that pipeline to the state of California, the state of Georgia, the state of Louisiana, the state of Texas, the state of Florida, and the state of Alabama. Not to say that other states don't produce fantastic high school football players, but when you look, there are some really impressive leagues in the states I just named. So for Alabama being able to go back into the state of California, get yet another big offensive line win, it's exactly what you love to see. And whenever we talk about Lloyd, one of the things that I love is that he doesn't just play football. He's a guy that plays basketball. He's a guy that plays baseball. And not long ago, Coach Sean, Jake, myself, Jay, Coach Smook, we all talked about Alabama's offensive line being an offensive line where you can expect a lot of movement. Kalen DeBoer's scheme is a lot of pin and pull. It's going to be a lot different than what we've seen previously under the past few Alabama offensive lines. But that's why I find it intriguing that Lloyd plays multiple different positions, because you know he's an athlete. You know, being able to excel in multiple different sports, you have to be athletic. And especially when you're 6'7", 290 pounds, this is a guy that carries the weight extremely well. When you turn on the highlights, there's no shortage of things to love. This is a guy who is very sudden off the line of scrimmage, is able to get to the second level really quickly. In fact, sometimes he wouldn't be the only one who was tasked with getting to the second level, but he was sure the first one that was able to get there and successfully pancake his assignment. The other thing you notice is the violence, which goes alongside with what I just said, being able to pancake his assignment, and the suddenness. Those are all things that you love, especially for an offensive lineman in this Kalen DeBoer scheme. It's part of the reason why I think this is such a big addition. Not only that, you're pairing him with what's looking like a really solid offensive line class right now. Just last week, we talked about Michael Carroll. We talked about Mal Waldrop. Now we're sitting here talking about Jackson Lloyd as this staff and Coach Cap is getting busy on the recruiting trail. And shout out to Coach Cap, because he has been doing fantastic work ever since he got hired by Alabama. And this was an interesting position. Let's remember back to what happened here. Everybody thought Alabama was going to be getting Huff, who was coming from Washington. However, he took the Seattle job with Grubb. So Alabama had assembled their staff, thought they were ready to go, and then they had a guy leave. And by the way, that guy not only had a relationship with Jackson Lloyd, but had a relationship with several other offensive linemen, in the class of 2025 from Washington, as you can now see where I was going with the Washington point, and when he was hired by Alabama. Remember, he was on the trail, recruiting. Then he goes to the Seattle job. Now, I don't fault him for that. If the NFL comes calling, Nick Saban talked about this. If you get the opportunity to move up in this field, take it. Because those opportunities, they don't come often. So I have no fault for him, but it is highly impressive, and this is the point of this whole conversation. It is highly impressive whenever Coach Cap is able to come in here and pick up where they left off without skipping a beat, having to get to know these kids. Now, in the case of Jackson Lloyd already had a pre-existing relationship with, like I said, not only Huff, but also Kalen DeBoer. And I think that helped really jumpstart this win. But we can't undervalue what Coach Cap has been able to do. Because as much as you might have that relationship with Kalen DeBoer, you're going to be working with and getting coached by Coach Cap. And he went out there and got a big-time win against some heavyweight recruiters, mind you. We're talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes after Jackson Lloyd, and Alabama was the one to get this win. Ohio's a team and a coaching staff that recruits as well as anybody in the nation. This is something we know to be true. Even if you're not an Ohio State Buckeye fan, let's call it what it is. You guys know this channel, I am here to give you the truth, or at least the truth as I see it. But I'm not here to hold punches. And I would be remiss in my job if I sat here and said, oh, a win against Ohio State when Ohio State has continuity at the coaching position. That's no big deal. That is a big deal. That is certainly a big deal. Ohio State recruits as well as anybody in the nation. They have far more continuity than Alabama, and Alabama was just able to get a big win for an offensive lineman who, yes, had a pre-existing relationship with Kalen DeBoer, but not only Kalen DeBoer, but Huff, who is now with the Seattle Seahawks. In steps Coach Cap, and he doesn't miss a beat. There's a reason why I give you all this, because it's to paint the picture that this staff from all levels are doing a really good job on the recruiting trail. Kalen DeBoer establishing these relationships, maintaining these relationships. Coach Cap inserting himself into the equation, getting a win for Michael Carroll, getting a win for Mal Waldrop, getting a win for Jackson Lloyd, and pushing for Ty Haywood, who many in the recruiting world thought was an Oklahoma lock. And if you've been around the channel for any extended period of time, you'll know my affinity for Coach Bill Bedenbaugh. Once again, much like the Ohio State conversation, you might not be an Oklahoma fan, but let's call it what it is. Bill Bedenbaugh is one of the most elite coaches in the nation. Notice I didn't say offensive line coaches. He's one of the most elite coaches in the nation. Look at the guys he sends to the NFL draft. For Alabama and this staff to be able to go toe-to-toe with an Ohio State, with a Bill Bedenbaugh, with a Georgia for some of these prospects, a Luke Metz, who Georgia's now hot on the trail on. It's very impressive. And yes, pen doesn't hit paper until at the very least December. And that is something we have got to remember. There's a long way to go between now and National Signing Day. Teams across the nation will be doing everything they can to flip prospects like a Jackson Lloyd, like a Michael Carroll. This is true. There's no doubt about that. But I do keep bringing to your attention this staff's ability to create, maintain, and cultivate relationships. Because I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, at the risk of sounding like a broken record. This is the NIL era, but relationships are still king. You can't forget NIL. Everyone's playing the NIL game. You might as well step up to the plate. But relationships are still king. So this is a big win for Alabama. Being able to get one of the top prospects in the nation, like I said at the beginning, if you look at On3, you're talking about a guy that ranks 29th in the nation, a top 10 offensive tackle, the #1 player in the state of California. Shout out to Coach Cap, Kalen DeBoer, guys like Courtney Morgan, guys in the background that maybe don't get the recognition. This Alabama staff is doing a great job so far, and I'm really excited to see where they end up come December. But I'm really excited to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.